Everybody doing today? Good day. Welcome to my photography editing live stream where I use Photolab DxO or DxO Photolab 8 to edit your photos. Again, it's always been my preferred editor of choice, and hopefully you get an idea of how to use the tools and my basic approach or methodology to editing and workflow, I guess is a better word. And I'm also an affiliate for DxO, so I have my affiliate links down below. If you're interested in getting DxO and you buy it, I get a commission, so that's always nice. A great way to support the channel, and also you can buy me a coffee or just become a member. It's 99 cents. But all that out of the way, basically, this is where you can submit your images, and I edit your images here live because I think it's always better to see your images edited using the software rather than watching sort of a canned video uh, where they kind of cherry pick the images to highlight different features. Um, but ultimately, I think DxO gives the best results. It has a workflow that is very compatible with the way my brain is wired and might be for you as well. So I see Williams here, Paul, John, Robin, Larry, Jeff. Good to see everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Um, excuse me. Okay, so I downloaded the images. We got quite a few today, and they look great. And also, one person wanted a critique, so I'll offer that. And for anyone that's new or watching this, uh, just understand editing is very, very subjective. I'm not, criticizing or judging anyone's images. I'm just simply editing them the way I would if I took them. So if I do any crops or make adjustments to them that you might not agree with, it's okay. It's not about that. It's about showing the tools in DxO and the final result and the kind of images or the kind of excuse me, the editing that you can do with DxO. Okay. Let's see if I can get my screens up. I need to make a couple adjustments. What I like to do is just uh, make the screen a little bit larger than I would normally work in so that it's easier to see on a live stream. And we're almost there. Let's see. Some of these buttons. I always get a little flustered. Uh, this one, no. My brain is just okay. This is the right one. I woke up a little late this morning, so I'm not as alert as I normally would be or as can be. All right, so let's start with the first one here. We have a robin. So I'm going to download the optics module. And this is really one of the signature tools in DxO is the optics module that analyzes the image based on the lens and camera you're using, and then only sharpens where it needs to be sharpened. Not all lenses are, lenses can be a little bit uneven sometimes. All right, I love this. Very, very straight, very similar to an image I would take. Just pretty straightforward. Fill the frame as much as you can. Uh, and good shutter speed. So yeah, I do actually time to time may give some suggestions on camera settings. Um, again, how I would probably take the shot or the settings I would use if I were to do the same shot. And these settings are perfect. Um, so as always, I will apply a basic preset, which is basically optical corrections, where I talked about the distortion and sharpening of the lens to bring out the best based on the camera lens combination. And then I like to just look at the overall composition, and that's usually involved, tilting the horizon or cropping in. And most of the nature shots, I just kind of default to a standard 1 by 1 crop. And I always like to fill the frame, maybe give it a little off center, but still balanced in a way. And then I also look at, the empty space or the negative space around to try to make sure that's kind of even. I think that looks like a good composition there. And with birds, typically, well, let me rephrase it. Let me start over. From here, I start to look at the overall exposure of the composition I want. This is pretty well exposed. I probably don't need to do anything. And then I also think about white balance. So white balance and exposure are kind of the next things I look at. And since this is already pretty well exposed, I don't think I need to do anything. And the white balance is fine. So I'm going to go to just local adjustments right away from here. And now, when we look at birding, I always like to do eyes, beaks, and talons. Okay, uh, when it comes to birding. So I'll just start with the eyes right here, and I'll use a control point. And with birds or eyes, I never do this, like just get right on the eye, or very rarely. I like to just brighten the entire area in a very gradual way. And that's controlled by the mask selectivity sliders here. So if I want it to spread a little more, I can widen this. And if I want it to be tighter, I can go up to 100%. So this is the color mask. Down here is the luminosity mask, or basically it measures, the brightness of the area. This scene is pretty evenly lit. So I'm just going to leave the sliders at 50-50. That gives a nice, natural, graduated adjustment. Um, and typically the eyes are very dark. So I just push the shadows, and then I use clear view to make it kind of shiny, and then usually a little micro contrast as well, just to bring back a little bit of bite to the scene. And a lot of times I can just use the same control point. If I just click, it's going to duplicate that control point on the beak right there. And maybe even the talons. No, that's a bit too much. So what I'm going to do instead is create a new control point. Now it's too bright. So I'm just going to make a new control point. This time I'm going to tighten the luma a little bit, just to select the talent a little more. And usually in this area, I do ±5, ±10 when it comes to making adjustments. That way it stays nice and natural and doesn't look like you tried to correct one spot on the photo, but it just looks like a natural brightening or darkening of a particular area. So on this, these are mostly midtones, so I'm going to just push the midtones so that I'm not affecting the shadow areas around it. And I think that looks good. Maybe give it a little bit of micro contrast. Hopefully bring out some of the detail. That would be, oops, I'm sorry. That would be right here. Okay. All right. And uh, okay, that looks pretty good. Now, uh, the bird is a little bit too bright here in the front relative to the back. And that might be okay if it felt like the light was coming in from the left side, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's more backlit or coming from this corner up here, the upper right. So I'm going to add some light to the back here, because I think that would look more natural. So again, I'll just use a control point. So create a new one. So I hit the plus sign, and we'll just tighten the chroma mask just a hair to make sure I'm only brightening the bird or that red color. And again, we're kind of in the mid-tone area. I'm going to push that, maybe push the highlight, and then give it a little push on the shadow. Not too much. Okay. Maybe a little more down here too. I just I just tighten these control points down a little bit, just to get a tiny bit less fill. Okay, and then I'm gonna just whoops, let me, I was working on a picture of Ellie. Let me compare. I always like to just do a quick compare before and after to see where I'm at. Okay, that looks good. And I think one more thing I'll do is I'm just going to soften the background a bit. And I'm just going to use control points for that. So let's just get in here. Like this. So let me just do a slight pull on the blacks and pull the micro contrast back a bit, just to soften it a little bit. And then overall, I'm going to just do a global brightening here. You just try the smart lighting. Yeah, that's too much. I'm just going to just brighten it because what I'm doing now is I'm looking at the histogram over here, and it just feels a little bit too much to the left. Uh, it's almost perfectly balanced, but I think I'll just go a little bit brighter, maybe just about a third of a stop. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay. I'm going to go back to the eye and just to show you, I don't show this very often, but you can rename this control point and call it the eye. So if you're doing some extensive editing, you can go and name all your control points individually so they're easier to find. But I rarely need to do that. I'm just editing one image at a time, and I'm not doing a ton. But I'm just going to back off the brightness a little bit. All right, that's good. Okay, let's do an export because this is an ISO 3200. Maybe add a little vignette too. So to do vignettes, if you don't have film pack installed, you can just use a control point, expand it out, convert it, and turn the chroma and luma mask down to 0. Just expand it out, and then just pull the exposure slider down like so. Okay, now I'm done. So let's export this. I'll right click, export to original folder, sRGB, preserve color details, all exit data. Okay, that looks good. And we'll wait for that. That usually only takes about 10 or 15 seconds. So we're almost there. Not quite yet. I'm going to click on the compare. Okay, not yet. Let me just see where it's. About now. Okay, now it's ready. So we have the output here. We output a JPEG, and we can do a side by side. Let me just reset the current edit. And there we have it. So just to kind of zoom in, you can see the difference. Um, Relatively noisy image over here on the right to, something pretty good over here on the left. So that's the technical quality. The overall composition and everything, again, I think since there's really nothing going on in the background, and this tree on the left is just putting a lot of weight onto the image compositionally, I just do a square crop, and that took care of most of the issues. I think that came out pretty good. Okay. Uh, no, just, yeah. Sorry, my brain is a little mush today. All right, let's go to the next one, and I'll double click on it to start editing. I'm going to hit F9 key to bring the panels on the side. So if I hit the F9 key on a Windows computer, it brings the panels in and out. Okay. All right, so we have a nice close-up shot here. This is probably a macro. No, it's a 4518. Okay. And everything looks good. I'm trying to think compositionally. I think we're okay. I just need to center it a little bit. So first, let me do my basic preset. And let's just apply. I mean, this is centered almost perfectly, but there's a little bit, it's a little bit lighter over here on the left side. Maybe it's because of this, or the way the leaves are spread out underneath, but there's just a bit too much negative space on the sides for me. And this is kind of my style. I like to fill the frame with the subject. That's generally how I compose things. Outside of, big landscapes, but most things, when you have a very distinct subject, I just like to fill the frame so you can see all of the details and nuances of the subject itself. And just come in right there. I can even tilt this slightly. Okay, I think that works. It's just this corner I'm not a big fan of, but and another thing I should do is again, so the colors look a little more accurate on the live stream. I'm gonna just let's see. I'm gonna turn on the sRGB profile. Okay. And I talk about the color spaces and things in a video back when Photolab 6 came out, but nothing changed in terms of color spaces and color signs. So if you're interested in working with color spaces or understanding color spaces and color science, I have a video on that on my channel. All right, I think this compositionally we're good. I feel like maybe I'm just going to start out with a vignette. I don't normally do vignettes first, but uh, let me just see how that looks. So I'm going to invert this. put my sliders to 0, and just pull in a little bit. 'Cause I want the subject to stand out a little more. Maybe I think that's good. I'm gonna move this down because the vignette's kind of falling onto the subject itself. So I'm gonna move this down a little bit so that the control point is right on this brown area and not on the red. And then I'm just gonna increase the chroma, which is the color mask. See, why is that not doing what I thought? Oh, because I inverted it. All right, no, we're okay. We're okay. So actually, I do want this right about here. So never mind. I'm sorry. I'll have to explain that in more detail later. Okay. All right. So I think I'm gonna have to soften this green over here. This is just really distracting me. But I like the vignette overall. And let me just do a couple of control points. I want to brighten, I want to tighten this just a tiny bit. And then switch to speculars. Okay, I'll do the same here. How about up here? That's I think that's okay. Ooh, that one is hitting the green, not the way I wanted. How about this green? Okay, I'll come back to that. I'm not sure. All right, so this green back here, I'm gonna try and just minimize this a bit. I don't know if I should just do a saturation, like a slight pull. Yeah, that's not looking good. How about if you shift the color? Yeah, that's better. Just gonna shift it a little bit red, and we'll get in here a little bit tighter. All right. Now it's not like this green spot in the left corner. It's a little more homogeneous with the rest of the background. The background's pretty soft already. I think we're good. Um, the only other creative thing I might think about is hmm, trying to see if I can get some direction of light in here because the light is very, very soft. So that's what initially prompted me to push the highlights on these little buds. Let me try. Let me go back to the global. Try some clear view on those. How about smart lighting? Yeah, smart lighting looks pretty good right there. All right, I think that's it. So let's see where we're at. Yeah, so I don't really need to export this. This is already pretty noise free. So there's the before and after. Yeah, I need to sorry, give me one more second. I want to just check something. Oops. Yeah, we're okay. All right. Okay. Did we, is the audio? It looks like the audio is okay on my end. I'm sorry. I just saw the, oh, well, that was 10 minutes ago. I'm sorry. All right. So, let's go to the next one. And okay, so we have a landscape with a rainbow. This is going to be tough because there's very, very little color here in the rainbow. But just a hint. Can we just do a basic preset? And there's a hole here. Oops, sorry. So I did a basic preset. There's a little hole here that I need to kind of maybe crop out. I mean, let me try a 3 by 2. What a 16 by 9. All right. I think that works. And then I just want to check the clear view slider real quick and see if that helps. That helps a bit. Uh, Horizon's a little bit off. Let me work on the horizon just a bit. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to start with a global clear view or not. I think I will, but I'm just going to back it off a little. So that'll do. All right. From here, I'm going to brighten the foreground a bit. I don't know if I can do anything about this rainbow. I'm going to try a control line. I'm going to move this dropper. I'm going to tighten the chroma up. I don't think I can get that rainbow separated. That's about that's about the best I can do. I can see a little bit of the arch here, but then it gets lost in the clouds. Let's come up here. If I tighten the luma a bit, just a bit. Okay, so this is one of the rare times where I'm very aggressive with the chroma and luma sliders. All right, now that I have the rainbow kind of selected, I'm going to go down here and let's push the vibrancy. How about the saturation? That might be, no, that ain't going to cut it. I'll push the vibrancy. Let's push the reds. The reds and the green. I don't want the reds to get into the mountain, so you might be able to go a little bit tighter. This might it might be futile to try to bring this rainbow out, but I'm gonna push it as much as I can. Ah, and duplicate it. Yeah, that's getting ugly. We'll leave it there. I think that's all I can do. Okay, let's work on the foreground. I'm going to do another control line and just select the brownish reds in here. So I'll tighten up the chroma mask just a little bit more. And let's just push the shadows here and then give it some clear view, a touch, and a little micro contrast. All right, maybe too much there. Okay, and the water is not bad, but I think I can take another control point. It's kind of in the water. I'm going to tighten the chroma just 5 points there. And just give the water some. Okay, sorry. Okay. Hopefully that improves the audio. I'm sorry, John, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Okay, and then I'm just going to fix this one sort of thing in the foreground. And let me see. Yep, everything's feathered, repair. Let's try that. That's fine. Maybe something like that. A little bit more. All right, we're done. So, just do a side by side there. So here's the original on the left. And yeah, the rainbow is just a bit too faint for me to separate that from the rest of the background. But hopefully you can see it here still. And then compositionally, the 16 by 9 I think worked well. I'm not a big fan of wide angle landscapes, you know, without, if I do, I like to do 16 by 9, 16 by 7, or even wider. Because a lot of times the negative space in the landscape, if there wasn't a rainbow here, I would have cropped out all this blue sky too. But I think that works the way it is. So there's the before and there's the after. Okay, let's go back to the library and do the next one here from Dudley Rose. Apply basic preset. And I'm going to try and go through these a little faster from here because I kind of did a lot of explaining in the beginning. Uh, okay, so the highlights here are really strong and it feels a little bit off center. So Rather than doing a horizon straightening, I'm gonna just try a perspective real quick. Yeah, that works. A lot of times, if there's just very small, adjustments you need to make sometimes, where you have sort of this some depth to the image, like this is obviously going from near to far. Uh, Sometimes a perspective thing works pretty well, especially when you got some strong lines in the image. So let me work on these highlights first. This is bugging me. And again, the overall exposure looks good. It's just we just need to kind of temper these highlights a bit. And let's just try a linear pull. And then, and by linear, I mean just this exposure slider brings all of the brightnesses down across the tonal range versus I can be a little more selective here with highlights. All right, that feels better. And then I'm going to warm it up a bit too, just to bring back some of that. And when I'm doing Kelvin temperature changes to white balance, like down here, I try not to do more than 500 Kelvin. So I was at 55. I really don't want to go much above 6,000 because if I do, otherwise it looks weird, right? So I think right around 59 looks good. Okay. The This is a little bit too dappled. Let me push the highlights back. No, let me pull these back in. Maybe soften it. What I'm looking at are the flowers here. It's very strong red to or pink to a light pink. And again, that's because the light is very harsh. I'm going to see if I can, yeah, that's better. I'm just going to pull the contrast back. And I'm going to give a little push to the greens. Um, so let's go over here to green and just give it a little more saturation. Okay. Uh, I'm gonna pull, let me see, this chroma or luma. No, I think we're okay. So how do we do there? Yeah, okay, that feels good. Now I'm gonna push the shadows on the left side a little bit with another control line and just overlap the highlight one. Okay, put some contrast into this side. Maybe do a little bit pull on the blacks and shadows here. And push the midtones. Okay. And then from here, I don't know. Something's still a little bit off. I'm gonna try and get this tree to stand out a little bit more, the trunk. So let me do that with control point and see if I can. I'm gonna tighten the chroma. So maybe let's try saturation. maybe a slight shift off the red. Okay. Okay, we're almost there. Let me go here and just give a quick smart lighting. No, I'm gonna push the highlights just a bit globally because it's looking a little bit too processed to me now. And just bring some of that contrast back. I think maybe this sidewalk I can work with separately. Let me put a point on this and just pull the highlights in a bit more. Give it some micro contrast. Okay, I think we're done. So this one I'm going to export and we'll do a side by side. And give me 1 second. All right, I'm sorry, I was looking at something. Here we go. Let's reset this. Compare it to the output. Okay, so here it was really just about balancing the highlights over here and then a slight push in the shadows. Also, the brickwork here was way overexposed, so you couldn't really see what was going on there. And I tried to do it in a way that it doesn't look over processed. And compositionally, the entire frame is filled already. The only thing I might change, let me think. I think if I were to change the composition a little, maybe just get down to this one door. That would be the only thing I would change compositionally. Uh, because this part of the door is a little distracting versus I think this composition works a little better. Okay, that looks good. Let's go to the next one. Uh, let's see, one from Lasse. Have a great blue heron. Wow, why is there motion blur here? 1/800th at 140. What lens? Oh, the 40 to 150 kit. Okay. So let's apply basic preset. All right, that helps. That helps, but I'm still getting some motion blur or distortion here. Let's go ahead and crop this in. See how just a 4:3 crop looks. I think that's fine right there. Okay, and let's do some local adjustments. It's a little on the dark side, but that's okay. I think I'll leave that because we're going to brighten the bird. Oops, that control point's way too big. Let's just let's just do a global here. Add some clear view. And then the beak, I need to do a little bit separately. Just push the midtones there, some clear view, a little less contrast there. And then let's work on the body a bit. Tighten these. And maybe this leg. And this leg. I might have to pull these control points because it's blending in a bit too much. But okay. Let's just do a linear push. All right, that's looking good. So about 1.5 stops. And then we'll bring some contrast back in. Just a touch of clear view maybe. And then a slight push in vibrancy. Okay. This area needs to be a little brighter, right around the eyes. But a push in the shadows would be good. Okay, yeah, the legs are a little bit too. Let me go back to the legs. I need to tighten these up a bit. Ah, yeah, I'm afraid these are. I should have. Let me get rid of these leg things. Let me see. It was just looking kind of wonky to me. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of light down here. Okay, let's see where we're at. All right, good. It's a little too strong here. So what if I just push that? Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, let's tilt the horizon a bit. Okay, and then the water just needs a little bit of work. So we're gonna push the Luma mask a little bit or tighten it. And then let's try clear view and pull the blacks. No, that's too close. Maybe not that much. It's just starting to feel a little bit over processed. Okay, I'm going to cool off the image a little bit globally. Feels just a bit too warm. Right about there. And then let me add some light to the ground. So we'll use a control line. Let's make that a little more gradual, like that. All right. Globally, we need to just make it a little brighter and then give it a little global vibrance. This one area, let me, let me go back here. I'm going to do a control point here. Just want to desaturate that a little bit, or maybe just pull the yellows out. Okay. All right, I think I'm done. So I'm going to export this. Okay, that all looks good. Okay. While that's processing, I see John Gavin, good morning. Larry, good to see you. And Wayne, off to work. Oh, sorry, man. But thanks for dropping in. And John is asking, do you prefer control points over brushes? Don't we get more fine control with brushes? Yeah, I prefer control points because I can control the chroma and luminosity masking, uh, where I can't do that with a brush. A brush is a global, it just, wherever you brush, it's going to change that area. So I'll do brushing sometimes if I want to feather. So for example, rather than using a control line down here, I could have just used a brush. Uh, but I like the feathering and the masking that I can do with a control line or control point versus a brush is sort of a hard, it's a more direct change without any control over the luminosity or chromacity of where you're trying to edit. Okay, so let me reset this and compare, do side by side. So yeah, this whole scene here, obviously because you have a 40 to 150, you can't zoom in anymore. So we just cropped in. And if we zoom in, um, I'm not sure. It's like we misfocused a little bit here. That's what it feels like. But this lens looks a little soft here as well. So this feels more like lens softness. But in any case, uh, this is what I was able to kind of do with DxO. And that's one of the reasons I didn't crop all the way in, is because we did lose a little bit of detail. But we were able to bring a lot back, kind of in a slightly over sharpened way, which if we were to crop in really close, this would be a problem, like the feathers over here. But since I framed it this way, I think that looks pretty good. So we can do just a swipe. And then of course, brightening the image overall. I think we're good. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, we have a landscape. Uh, This is interesting. Oh, okay, maybe not. I thought maybe there's some old junker car sitting there, but that's a modern car. We have this nice little boat, and then we have a stream. Well, that's not really a stream, but we have this little bank of water here. So I think the intent was to try to make this line lead up to this house and this tree. Um, but for me, compositionally, there's just too much foreground. So I'm going to tighten it up. Let me just get a basic preset in, and let's straighten the horizon a bit. Maybe a perspective. Let's see. Just a slight straighten there. I'm going to come in maybe to here. Because this little stream on the right side is a little distracting. But see if I can maintain that leading line. And there's good balance here. I'm going to lose this boat, unfortunately. But I'm going to try and center this with that property. Okay. Now let's tighten this horizon a bit more. Okay, this pole. Let me just come down. I got to get rid of this. Good enough. Okay, let's see if there's any details in the sky. So I'm just going to use a control line. Let's tighten up the luma. And go with a clear view. Oh, yeah, there's nothing there. There's a little bit of some clouds up here, but it's very, very soft and hazy. So we're not going to be able to do much there. But I'll pull the highlights a bit. Maybe cool it off. Let's see. Whoops. Not that much. We were at what, 67? Let's try 62. Okay. Maybe some micro contrast. Okay. And all right. Now let's work on this structure here. Whoops. Oops. I'm sorry. I need to hit the plus sign. I want to bring out the brickwork a bit. So let's tighten up the chroma mask in this case. And just throw in some micro contrast. A little push to the shadows. And maybe a push in the reds. And then the foreground. Let's use another control line. Sorry, I gotta hit the plus. What I want to do is sort of emphasize some of these greens. So let's see if I can pick something green. Tighten up the luma. It's a little hard to see. All right. I might not do this, but yeah, there. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Just a little bit more saturation in there. I'm gonna bring this up. Okay, good. Now let's do something with this shiny water. Let's pull the blacks, tighten this up. Not sure. Let me hide that. Ah, okay. Yeah, that helps. All right. Let me go back to my control line and just push the midtones a bit. And then the sky. Uh, some some clear view. Gosh, this horizon is still bugging me. Okay, that's better. All right, where are we? Let me just pull. Okay. So I just did a global darkening. I wanted to see if I can change just the overall feeling because this feels like just midday, right? But if I pull this in, I can kind of make it a little more dramatic. I might be able to bring some of the sky back while I'm at it, but okay, let's do some control points now. Okay, that's a little better. We're getting a little bit mushy. Maybe. All right. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, this one here needs to be smaller. Maybe maybe a separate one for that one because it's a little bit too bright. Let's just give it a little bit like that. A little bit in here. And then back to the sky. Yeah, we need this to be a lot cooler. Go back this way. Okay, a little bit less there. Maybe a spot there. Okay, and then let me go back to this. Which one was it? This one? One of these had the greens pushed. It was this one. They don't need to be quite that strong. Just shift it. All right, I'm gonna call it there. I think these are blinds, right? Oh no, these are windows. Well, I can work on these windows just a little bit. One more thing. So let's see if we push the highlights, the midtones, and then the shadows. Okay, contrast. I want some clear view. Okay. All right, I'm gonna call it there. Maybe just a slight global push here on the, if I pull this back a little, let me see. Yeah, that works. I need I need just a little bit more light in here. There's some micro contrast. Yeah, that's better. Right there. Okay, let me export that. Oh, and we'll do a comparison. Reset. All right, so again, the compositionally, this line here, I think was the intent to kind of lead the eye to this structure, but the structure was just too far away, so there's too much foreground. So that's why I cropped in, and then I picked up the line right here to kind of bring you around. And then it's a very hazy day here, so short of doing a full-on sky replacement, which might work okay. Uh, I'm just going to darken the scene to change the mood. So it looks, if anything, I probably should have shifted the white balance way cooler as well. Let me just try that real quick. Uh, sometimes if it looks good, but let me try a much cooler white balance. How about much warmer? Maybe, yeah, maybe just a little cooler like that. And then, okay. So I'm going to re-edit this just a little bit. Go back to my control points. I think it was this one. I'm going to just push the reds. Ah, it's too much. All right, let me export that. Let me try that. Yeah, I think that works a little better. The only thing is it's a little bit too crispy. Sorry, I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I'm going to let me go back to a global. Maybe eh, we'll leave it. All right, I'm done. So, yeah, there's the before and after. This image has a lot of potential, and you can go a lot of different directions, I think, creatively with this, because the overall composition is pretty nice. It's just all the lighting is really harsh, and that's kind of my biggest problem. You got harsh lighting, but haziness. And the question is, do you try to change the overall mood of the scene to bring out the composition, or do you try to bring out the sort of the more realistic, capture of the scene? But I think that looks okay. Um, that's all I can do for now. Let me go to the next one because I got a lot more here. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those shots, right? Can you can you do my Bart? Yeah, okay, John. Let me do John's real quick. I'm glad I caught that. So Paul says, yeah, I spent quite a long on it myself. It's one of those shots. Yeah. And then John's asking he wants me to do his. That's fine. Okay. Let me get this. All right. So basic preset. I can do these pretty quickly because these are bird shots. Do one by one and just come in right there. Let's see if we can use the line of this tree. and just come in a little tighter. And we'll go right to the eyes. Unfortunately, the talons are not showing too well. And let's push the shadows, give the clear view, micro contrast. It's not a lot of color there. So I'm going to just push the white balance just to bring some of the brownish eyes back a little bit. Okay. And then the beak, we'll do a separate control point and just push the shadows a bit. I'm sorry, the brightness and the shadows. Spread that out a bit. And then the owl itself overall needs some brightening. I might have to come back and darken the eyes, but because they're starting to look a little buggy. But let's do this. Brighten him up about one stop. Just a touch of clear view. Definitely some micro contrast. Okay, and then let's add a vignette. So I'll do that, invert it, and there. That might need some clear view. And a pull in the blacks. Where's my all right, how are we doing here? Not bad. Okay, this right eye is a little bit too strong. So let's make that smaller. And then the head overall, I'd like to do something with this head. The whites, okay, this is going to be a very, very subtle push, right? Yeah, just a subtle push to brighten the head a bit. And then overall, globally, the color, the white balance is a little bit too cool. So let's warm it up just on a global. What if I just click here? Yeah, I want it to be a little warmer, a little less green, a little warmer. Too much, too much. Now, when I'm working globally, I'm a little more flexible when it comes to white balance. I don't really need to stay in the 500 Kelvin window that I would do if I was doing, say, a local adjustment. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's better. And there's kind of a glow behind him. So let's see if I can temper that a bit. Uh, just a little bit. Just temper some of these highlights. Maybe I'll just use a brush, a healing brush, that is. Do that. All right, that's oh, one more right here. Good enough. All right, so let's export this and compare, reset. Okay. Wow, this looks really warm now, but it's easy enough to cool off if you need to in the white balance. But yeah, we just needed to crop in. There's some like fog or uh something, some hazing in the lens or something here. It's probably like a little bit of flaring from coming in from this because there's a really strong light behind. But in any case, we cropped all that out. And if we punch in, the eyes didn't come out quite like I had hoped, but there's not much light on the eyes anyway. But the good thing is there's a catch light, and we were able to bring back, I think, yeah, some decent detail and pull the noise out. I think that looks pretty good. So there's the before and after. All right. Let's see. Let's go to this one and this one. It's the osprey nest on the power lines. I don't know how they do that without getting electrocuted. So we'll do a basic preset. Hopefully we can recover some of that sky. Let's see what we can do there. Just a little bit, maybe some micro contrast. Highlights in a bit more. Okay, that's good. Let's brighten up the birds. Well, I should crop this a little bit first. Okay, good. So, gosh, all these backlit shots today. See what we can do. I don't know if I can. Okay, it's not bad. All right, let's try the eyes. Osprey have really strong yellow eyes. At least they do after I edit them. So I'm going to, let's not do that. Let's just try and saturate yellow. Make them a little brighter. Maybe shift it tiny bit. Okay. And let's do the beaks. Again, no talons really in this shot, but let's just do this and a slight push. And then let me see if I can just make the heads a little brighter overall. Okay. Eyes are a bit too yellow. So let me pull that back a bit. And this nest, we can do a little bit. Let's just pull the blacks in, push the highlights a bit. Okay, let's export that. Oh, wow, a female osprey got, that's terrible. So they do get electrocuted. Wow, that's horrible. Poor osprey. I really feel for animals, trying to live together with the modern world. Okay, let me reset this and go to this and compare. All right, so here's the original. I mean, there's one side of this image where you might want to think about keeping the entire frame with all the power lines, because that tells the story, and that could lead to conversations like John is talking about an osprey getting electrocuted. But I decided to go with just sort of a more traditional edit. So if we just kind of come in, um, there's good detail on these birds actually. It was just a matter of bringing the contrast back in because the light is backlit and it's soft light, so it's kind of this is like one of the toughest things to make look good is when you have backlight but soft hazy backlight. Just like the previous shot with the landscape, it was kind of the same thing. It was very, very hazy. But I think this came out pretty good, or as good as I could make it. Um, it could be just a little bit warmer. Let me let me just do a global. Yeah, that helps. That helps making it a little warmer. Let me export that again. Overwrite. All right, that's better. Yeah, a little bit of warmth helped. But what I really wanted to do was just bring the eyes out as much as I can. And I think that looks pretty good. And then I just pulled the blacks down here on the nest to just give the image, keep it from looking so flat and trying to give it some range with respect to the overall, because it's a very flat image, even though it's bright here, dark here, because it's hazy. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that looks pretty good. So from that to that, that looks good. All right. Let's see. We have landscape. So we'll do a basic preset and I'm gonna double click on this to edit it. We need to, I'm gonna just try perspective correction because these are a little bit off. Okay, that works. And then compositionally, I don't think we need, although it is kind of interesting down here. I think all we need is really this side. It needs a slight tilt. I think we just need this side. This is going to be a little tough in terms of cropping, but I just need this side. Let me think about this a second. This compositionally is a little challenging. Uh, what if I just do that? Yeah, I like that. All right. Let me just go out and look at a couple other ideas. I kind of like this too. I think I'm going to go with this. This foreground is still a little bit off. If I go here, almost. All right, I think that's as close as I'm going to get, but I like this. Let's do a little on the sky first and see if there's anything to be had. Just that. A little bit of a push. Maybe we do it by color. Okay. Let's do a control line down here, just in the more shadowy areas. Push that. Definitely need to clear that up. Some micro contrast and a little bit of warmth. And let's pull a saturation back. And then hmm, just not happy with this crop. Hold on. Let me see. Let me get down in here. Yikes. No, I think I'm gonna go with this. All right. Question is, No. This composition is really tough because I was over here for a while. I like this composition better, but my problem is the shadow here. I'm not able to balance this too well with the lighting in the rest of the frame. So if I come over here out of the shadow, I'm okay. But now this immediate foreground is just not quite, it just doesn't quite flow for me. But I'm just gonna go with this. So not much of an edit. All right, so this is it. So this wide, again, this is just from my, just the way I like to shoot things tight, fill the frame. Wide landscapes, I always struggle with compositionally and with respect to, there's just so much in the scene. So that's why I did such a tight crop because if these buildings were framed a little bit lower, they would have been, you know, these would have made a nice foreground to kind of give some weight to the bottom of the image, to balance with the mountains in the background. Also, the lighting of this shadow of this mountain here, this might work better if I were to make the scene overall more low key, but then just the balance over here of the lighting doesn't work for me. This is a very cool, bluish light to this very warm area over here. And then I don't like this break right here. I mean, there's just a lot of little things. The just the main thing being the foreground. The foreground is interesting, but it's the weakest part of this image compositionally for me. So basically what I did is I cropped everything out and then warmed it up. There could be a little bit less of a green tint. So if I go over here and just push the magenta a little bit. Let's try. Yeah, that's fine. But I think this vertical crop solves a lot of the problems I'm having with the lighting, with the cool light and the warm light, and the foreground being just kind of, yeah, the foreground's a little rough. I can't balance this foreground too well with the background. I would definitely work this scene though. There's a lot here to be had. I just don't know. I don't know what I would do differently offhand with this scene. I like this corner right here, just right here with the mountains. But I can't get this crop, you know, like this to me I kind of like. I like this line, right? I was trying to balance this line also. I didn't mention this, but yeah, this one line here kind of framing this little area right here. I kind of like this crop as well. But I think my final crop is this. Because it's interesting to see the whole town down here, right? So, wow, what a lucky person to be able to live in this area. It's so beautiful. Okay, let's go to the next one. Thanks. Who is this? John. Okay, John. That's an awesome scene. Awesome scene. I I wish I could have done more with this. When I was thinking about a low-key shot, I'll just talk about that for a second. But bringing the exposure kind of way down like this, and then cropping over to the left side. And I was thinking something along these lines, but yeah, that's not going to work either. Oh well. All right. Sorry, John, but nice shot. Okay, so what are we up to here? This is Angelo's. So we have a wine vineyard. Oh, why is it fall? May. It's just interesting. You got really strong greens and then these just kind of out of place reds and yellows like it's fall. All right. Again, this needs to be a lot tighter. Let me apply basic preset and then I don't know that I need to, oops. I think that works a little better. Maybe some smart lighting. See if we can pull the sky in a bit. Okay. And then another local, let's see. Let's brighten up this one structure. Give it a little contrast. I don't know if we need to see the base of the trees. I think that works. How about this? Okay, I think that's it there. So this was already exposed. Well, just had to bring the sky in. And what's wrong with my mouse here? So normally I like to see the vines down here, but they're just not too dominant in the frame. It'd have been nice to get a lot closer, walked up to the scene, get the vines in, and do a vertical shot. But as it is, I felt like this was more interesting with this sort of gradation here to these very straight lines, and then the sort of the interesting colors back here in this tree line. And then, of course, giving a little drama to the sky and then making this building brighter. I think that's all it needed. Um, so there's the before, there's the after. Okay. Let's see. That was from Angelo. Thank you. And let's see this one from Jeff. Let's do a basic preset and edit this one. What is this fox looking at? God, there's a fox in my backyard too. Drives Ellie frickin' nuts. She just, she hates that fox. Ugh. Okay. Let's see. I think if I can get this to fit in a vertical, give it a slight tilt. Let's see. This fox is really crooked. I'm gonna try. Just get a nice tight shot. Okay. Uh, I'm not sure why. You must be shooting through some glass or something because there's just no contrast in this image. So we're gonna bring the contrast back. I think we can just do it globally. Uh, let's try a little bit of clear view. Then let's bring some warmth back in. Uh, let's do some local on the eyes. Now they're already bright enough, so I'm just going to try some micro contrast and actually pull the blacks a little bit. And let's see if we can give it a little more color. Okay. And then the nose needs a little more contrast. Okay. And the lip, it's a little bit of a lip here. Okay. And then the greens, let's give the greens a little more pop. I think I can do that globally because there's a little bit of a green tint here. That could be a problem. So I'm gonna have to do it locally. I was gonna try globally, but then I just noticed in here it's kind of green. So let's do a little bit tighter chroma and just get up in here. Think again, just the saturation on the greens. Maybe make them a little more yellow. Pull them down a bit. And then we'll make the fox. We'll just give the fox a little more reds. Okay, let's export that. Maybe let me try and pull. Let me go back to these greens. Let me pull the micro contrast on these. Just make it a little softer. Let's pull it off the fur. And I'm gonna go back to the fur on the fox and just add a little bit more micro contrast. Just give it a little more bite like that. Okay, now I'm done. So this one I have to export. The lip is a little bit too red. I should probably fix that. Let's just back that off a bit. Okay, now we're done. Okay, so here's the original on the right. Jeff says the fox cub shot through double glazed window. Yeah, so I was wondering why, because I know this lens is very contrasty. Uh, so it surprised me a little. Clearly this was shot through some dirty glass or something. But I think that came out nice. Compositionally, just a nice tight shot is fine. I was even considering cutting off the ears and getting in tighter, but the ears are kind of cool. I just wish there was a little more on top in terms of framing. Uh, but I think that looks pretty good. If we look at the finer details, again, ooh, he's got a little tick or some pus coming out his eyes. I should have healed that. But other than that, I think, yeah. Oops, where's my mouse? Come on. There we go. I think other than that, that came out pretty good. Um, all right. We are we are done, I think, right? Let me just there was one more somebody asked me to critique. Let me see if I missed anything. Yeah, it was this one. So come here. What? Okay, there it is. Ken, I'm having so many brain farts here. Uh so I guess oh wow. What lens is this? This has got to be an adapted lens because there's no data. Anyhow, uh, I think, considering what you're shooting through some brush, so that's part of the problem. And because clearly this brush is all around here. So that's really causing a part of the problem. And then let me see. Shutter speed. Shutter speed is good. ISO is good. 283 millimeters. That's interesting. You got EXIF data, but no lens data. So you must have entered that manually. I don't know. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Uh, but I like the editing overall. I think, yeah, he did a good job bringing the colors back in. It's a little bit rich, in terms of colors. The reds here, right? But I think that's a stylistic choice, and I like it. I like it. It's yeah, I like the edit. And this 16 by 9 crop or whatever this is pretty good too. So I think considering what you had to start with, because if you look at the original, you know, I think it's probably some vintage lens that you're using. I don't know what lens you're using, but I imagine it's an adapted lens of some sort, and you're shooting through brush. But the edit looks good. I would probably lean into it a bit more and make it look more painterly as well, because there's barely any detail left in the shot. Uh, Mostly because you're shooting through some brush. But I really like the editing. Good job on the blues on the water and these reds and oranges in here. Complement this blue. Good strong contrast here on the on the blue heron. And then just crushing these to almost black. I would have crushed them maybe a little bit more. And then just bring the highlights here a little bit down, just a touch, maybe a stop. But yeah, good edit. I don't think I would have done any better. Probably not, actually. I think that's a really good edit. I would have just leaned into the painterly look a little bit. I really like how you brought the reds out on these little bitty branches and things. Okay. All right, we're all done. Uh and Paul says my edit should be in your review box. Okay, I can take a look. I'm kind of a little ahead schedule. Let me see. Where's my so this is your edit. Okay. So you kept you didn't crop in very much, but the horizon's still crooked. But yeah, I see the sky replacement. That helps a lot with this scene. And I do like the color treatment you did. It takes away that sort of that harsh light kind of look from it. Takes it away. So we did kind of the same thing here. We brightened up the fence line. We worked on the greens here. We pulled in the highlights. So there's a lot of similarities here, other than the sky replacement to my edit. I think let's go back. Where's my edit? Um, yeah, other than a tighter crop, and you're much warmer. I cooled mine off quite a bit, I think on purpose. I can't remember now. But yeah, this looks good. Well, with the when you say struggle with the horizon, I think what I did, right, is I used that perspective tool because it is very possible that the house has shifted a little bit, the foundation, but it's still, I think overall the horizon is still, yeah, off. Because this line here, even though it might actually be this way, this tree line here is straight, and you said this is straight. That still doesn't look straight to me, but that could be an optical illusion. But yeah, I think you did a great edit, Paul. I like yours a little better than mine. Mine is a little bit too crispy still, and it could be a little warmer. But I tried to go kind of low key, right? Okay. All right. But yeah, I do like your edit better than mine. Just I would fix that horizon a little bit, and that would be it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's edit. Lots of great pictures again this week. Really appreciate that. It's always fun to edit your pictures, and hopefully you picked up a few ideas along the way. And I I'll be back on Sunday with Lee Hoy. We're gonna do talk about nature photography, and boy, it's Memorial Day weekend, so happy Memorial Day. Uh, Tomorrow I'm gonna go do some shooting some planes uh, at the airport, Reagan National, and then Monday I'm doing some birding. So all things in flight, man-made and otherwise, this weekend feels like. So look for those images next week on my Instagram, and maybe I'll give you guys one to edit. I haven't had any really decent pictures for you guys to edit out of my portfolio lately. Uh, but I'll give you guys something to edit for next week. And thanks everyone for being here today. Thanks for sending your images and all of your support. It's good to see everybody, and I hope to see you guys again soon.